Hey, it's Big Game. James McCarty, sports director at Flag Family Media, here with Dragon women's basketball head coach Karla Nelson. Coach, it's season number 2, the postseason. How excited are you for the postseason, and how do you approach it with your team any differently than the regular season?
I mean, everybody's 0-0. The one thing I did just remind them of is, just think back to November when you started the year and everybody was 0-0, and you had that excitement of, not knowing what was going to happen, and now we're 0-0, not knowing what's going to happen. So, the only thing that right now, this time of year, it's, if you want to advance, you have to win.
This week, you guys have a chance to go back to Aberdeen. That was a place a couple weeks ago. There were some struggles on both ends of the court, but you ended up splitting the regular season series with Northern State. What did you learn about your squad? I get the first meeting was way back in December, so that's the first half into the most recent meeting. But of those two sample sizes, what did you learn, and what do you think your team can do better, execute on to be successful?
Well, I think execution-wise, we have to move the ball better, and we have to move without the ball better. And we have to make sure we get post touches. And then our posts have to facilitate a little bit more than maybe they would in some other games, because Northern's going to do everything they can to take the paint away. And, we're going to have to be confident, and we're going to have to take good shots from the perimeter and be confident in knocking those shots down. And, it doesn't matter if you miss or make a shot sometimes. It matters, the confidence with which you're shooting that shot. And, if we shoot with some confidence and, we can knock shots down and we can really open up the paint. But if we don't, we're going to have to do some things, and we'll work on those things today. But we're going to have to do some things where we get some cutting and some other action out of out of the paint.
It's tough to not single out somebody from Northern State with how well she's played the couple matchups. Izzy Moore, for the Wolves, she facilitates, she scores, she does a little bit of everything. The two matchups against you this year, she's averaging 25 points a game.
That's it.
But she's also committed 10 turnovers in those two ball games. As a coaching staff, how do you approach a player that's of her talent? Do you just turn her into a scorer, don't let her facilitate? Do you try and just make things tough? Do you hope that there's missed shots? How do you approach that?
All of those things, right? She's playing really well. Right now in my mind, she certainly is a candidate for MVP of the North, if not the league, just by the way she's playing. When you have our team that has an Izzy Moore or a Kinnebrew or a Natalie Bramer or, Lydia Hawk from Concordia St. Paul, those kids really make their teams go. And right now we don't have that type of player. We have a team that is really counting on each other to play at a high level. But, with Izzy, I think what you do is you just make her life as miserable as possible. And then we have to do a better job away from the ball with these other players, too, than we did the first time. So, it's just a matter of us playing better defense. For about 3 games there, we played pretty good defense, and then we go to Duluth and we stink it up pretty good. And, I think the thing from a coaching standpoint, and this team in particular, you have no idea how they're going to play when they get off the bus. We haven't won in a long time on the road, and, we have nothing to lose. We're we're the lower seed, going into a really hostile environment. And I would say that the odds are not in our favor. So go out and play tougher. You got to go play tougher. And you can't fall apart or be soft. Like, I think that we have played soft basketball on the road. You just can't do those things. And, I'm interested to see how we play.
With this being one of those almost one-off type of double headers in the NSIC's open round on a Wednesday, for travel, for us, of course, it worked out well with the men and women for MSUM being both in Aberdeen, but with an expected large crowd, I would imagine, with it being hostile, how is your squad approaching that challenge, and how are you going to try and feed off of that?
Well, I think, number one, as a player, you have to ignore that stuff. I don't think, your focus, you should be laser focused where you don't hear a lot of the outside noise. And if you let that bother you, then, we don't have a chance. I mean, that's the way it is. You have to go in with a really laser focus, really just focusing on your 4 teammates, and then the bench has to bring good energy, and then we have to really communicate loudly on the defensive end. And I'm going to have to do a better job of controlling the tempo of the offense, because otherwise we just sit there and run around and do absolutely nothing.
Last thing I have for you, you'd mentioned needing to cut a little bit better. You mentioned bench needing to produce a little bit more in ball movement, of course. What is the biggest key of all those things, or maybe something different to being successful in Aberdeen?
I think the biggest thing we have to improve is seeing the ball go through the basket. We have to hit some shots. If we don't, if we scored 41 points there. Aubrey Morrison led us in scoring. She had, I think, 10 points. I mean, you can't go into a visiting gym and score 41 points and think you're going to win a game. Other people need to step up. Our seniors need to step up. It's do or die for them. I guess we'll see which seniors want to head down to Sioux Falls more. It's either going to be the Wolf seniors or the Dragon seniors. So I guess we're going to see what happens there.
All right, Coach, thanks for coming to your time. Good luck on Wednesday, and we'll be there to cover all the action.
Appreciate it.
Big game, James McCarty alongside head coach Karla Nelson, the Dragon women's basketball team. Have a great rest of your day.